everyone. Welcome to Saved by Grace with Lance Barber. I'm Lance Barber. As always, we're here to strengthen our faith in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and share testimonies of how we've been saved by grace. With me today, the amazing JC from Fab Life. Thank you so much for stopping by. How are you, sir?
The pleasure is all mine. I've actually been looking forward to this interview.
Well, I'm glad to have you on the show.
But I kind of feel naked right now because I didn't wear my bracelet. But I know that I'm wearing Christ, so I don't need to feel naked anymore.
He's got the full armor of God on, so you don't have to worry about the missing bracelet. So let's get started. First, let's talk about your show real quick. So you have a show. How can our audience find you?
It's on the social media show, and his program is also under the umbrella of the social media show. So I have two shows, CC and Gizi, and it's kind of like, comedic satire, and CC, played by Wawa, keeps the show grounded and keeps the show rolling, and I go off to a complete tangent. I'm the comedian, like all over the place, and it's funny because sometimes I do this show and I really don't feel like dressing up, and then all of a sudden, like an hour or 2 hours before the show, the inspiration comes to me. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And then I said, yeah, because then if I look funny, then I really don't need to do much, because it's going to look, we're talking about a serious subject, but I look so extremely archaic, and then the people will be like this, spinning it like, what the heck is going on?
What's going on?
Yeah, what's going on?
It's good. It's a nice balance. It's good. It's good. It's not the average show. Let's talk about your walk with the Lord.
Yes.
Wherever you'd like to start.
Before that. So I
yes.
spoke about CC and DC, and the other show is Fab Life, which is because my background is in fashion designing.
Okay.
And in Fab Life, I show fashion, of course, the Met Gala, runway shows, trends in Europe and here in America, all over the world, and my love for science fiction movies.
Okay.
Yes.
I like the blending of all that together. It's good. You got to tune into this, and we'll give you, obviously, you can see some of the same network. We're on the same network. Just a different time during the week.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no, please. I want people to know your background. So,
thank you.
Wherever you'd like to start, your testimony. Where did the Lord find you? How did you find the Lord?
This is going to be, quite controversial.
That's okay.
Because, how do I begin? I went through a lot of gender confusion when I was young. I was rejected and bullied, and I didn't grow up with a dad. And I was raised by a single mom, and since she couldn't really afford to raise me by herself, we were at my grandfather's house. My background, I'm Filipino, Spanish. So the way I was raised in the Philippines is we were extremely Catholics. And then you went to the house and there are saints everywhere. Statues everywhere. And to me as a kid growing up, I kind of found it really creepy. Because the house was already old. Yeah. Like really old Spanish style house, and these, statues, that they took from their trips to Europe over there, and you're surrounded by. And in the daytime, it's not a problem, but when you look at these things at night, you're like, oh my gosh.
It changes the landscape a bit.
Yeah.
I understand. That's funny.
Yeah, and then the statue of Jesus doesn't look very welcoming at all. Maybe it's the way the artist, sculpted it or painted it, like even kind of reminded me of Carrie, in the Piper Laurie's character as the deranged religious mom.
I remember that.
Carrie.
I remember that. It's good.
So anyhow, I hope that I'm not going to fly off at tangent. So I was rejected and bullied as a child, and because I didn't have that masculine backbone. You know, it's like I was looking for love in the wrong places, not to sound like that cliched song. And very sexually active as a child. And I know one of my Christian accountability partners, one of the pastors from our church, told me that I was actually abused as a child. And I kind of wanted to argue with him about that because I said, no, it was my choice. And then he told me, no, he was the adult. He should have said, no, what you're doing is wrong. And so that whole thing kind of like shifted. And I was like, huh. You know, because I had those wrong, you know, psychological, emotions at the age of 8, 7, 8. You know, that's not even the age of consent.
So it starts to get revealed to us as time goes on. Sometimes you wonder. I often have the same thing too when I look back at my childhood. I go, why was I so aggressive, active?
Yeah.
And then you start to get shown some stuff. And you go, oh, there was some stuff. It's almost like it's changed our perception or hidden. And then eventually it starts to surface and you go, well, that makes sense because it's learned behavior. We just start thinking it's us, and then there's stuff that wasn't there yet, and you go, wait a minute, now stuff's starting to make sense.
Yes. And then the funny thing is that I don't know if it was the fear of the Lord or more fear of the tradition and the Spanish customs that we had there. So everything that I did was all hidden. Hidden, you know, I grew up in a big house, so whenever the cat was away, the mouse could play. So there was a lot of monkey business going on in that household with the household help of my grandfather, me as, how do I say this without sounding too raging hormone. So, and it didn't help too. You'll find this funny that back in the 70s, men were wearing hot pants. So that didn't help at all.
It's an interesting fashion statement.
Yeah.
Back in fashion era,
back in the 70s, I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday. I mean, now it's like, that's a big no-no. I mean,
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. And so it didn't help me at all. And of course, since I felt like I was ostracized and rejected, my only escape was through my sexual fantasies. That's where, and it's funny because I had my sexual fantasies, but I would go to the Catholic Church with my grandfather, of course. I had to go with him because he was, you know, kind enough to say, oh, he doesn't have a father, therefore I'm going to try, you know. But he was old. And he was a doctor and an agriculturist at the same time, so he couldn't keep his eyes on me the whole time because he had like business to deal with. But in fairness to my grandfather, he was the most loving and accommodating grandfather ever, you know, that one could ever have.
It's like two different, it's interesting, it's like two dynamics, and oftentimes you can see this, it's like you're living two lives. It's like, and it's good to have a positive influence at the same point so you can see, you're like, okay, I'm going, you know, a fork in the road almost.
A fork in the, and nothing against Catholicism because I do have, you know, high respect for people that are Roman Catholics and all that, and respect for their tradition, but I wasn't alive. My spirit was not alive. I didn't know about having a relationship, you know, with God. All I thought was that, you know, religion, you did bad, therefore you're going to purgatory or possibly, you know, hellfire and brimstone. That's what I thought. So I lived under guilt and shame the whole time. And that affected me a lot in the way, I dealt with people. I was painfully shy. And then, but behind the scenes, I would play maybe that's what drove me to be like an actor right now, because as an actor, you can pretend to be something that you're not.
Mm.
And so, like, when I played with myself or with the neighbors, like, we would play make believe, and that was like my another way of escapism. Like, it's funny, like, but the films that we would pick, that I would pick, was The Exorcist, and I pretended to be Linda Blair.
It's an interesting
Because
role
it was
to take.
fun.
Yeah,
It was fun. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I played a lot of make believe games with the neighborhood kids and all that, but still, like, majority of the other kids in the neighborhood called me names, called me in Tagalog, in Filipino they would call me fag, sissy, and it didn't help because at school same thing would happen. It affected me a lot in my schoolwork. Like, I couldn't concentrate and I felt really dumb and stupid. And my teachers would make me stand up, and I didn't know what the answer was. And my my fellow classmates would just make fun of me, and I would come home very dejected. And of course, I kept everything to myself because I didn't want to hurt my mom. I mean, my mom already went through a lot of hell as an abandoned life, and so I didn't want, her to go through that.
I feel like you're burdening her with what you're going through. You kind of keep stuff inside. I think a lot of people, they deal with this stuff too. It's a very relatable story. I think with children, they take on a burden saying, this happened to me. I don't want to sit here and burden my parents, or what's going on. And so we keep on putting more and more stuff on.
Thank you. Exactly.
And it hurts, not realizing there's an answer for that. But continue.
Yeah, and so as I was, how do I say this, without making the crap fly out of the ceiling fan? Let's just say this because I'm protecting, of course, these people to. I mean, it's okay for me to throw myself under the bus, but not. There was a boy in the neighborhood who I had a romantic affair with, and that was the only love that I knew. And he meant the entire world to me. And when he outgrew me, that really devastated me. I was devastated, and I didn't enjoy my teenage years because of that. I spent my teenage years just crying at night in bed, and sometimes I would induce it. Sometimes I would listen to sappy, sad love songs. You'll go to the Philippines and you'll see that they play music really loud.
Yeah.
I mean, this is silent right now, but over there's music everywhere. Yeah, music from here in America, is big over there.
Yeah.
So the American pop culture is huge over there. Like, you just can't imagine. So that's how I used American pop culture in the Philippines as my way of escape too.
If it was 80s music, I understand, because I'm a big fan of the 80s. But
Yeah, 80s music and 70s music. Back in the 70s, I was obsessed with ABBA. And of course, I listened to the Bee Gees, here and there, and Barry Manilow.
you like a whole thing going on. I see what's going on over here.
Air Supply, Air Supply. They love singing those sappy.
Okay.
And I would listen to Air Supply so that I could cry.
Yeah.
It's funny that I was addicted to depression, and I would go look for it.
It's like another escape. It was a way of getting back there where there was almost a sense of comfort being in. This is a relatable thing of what I'm used to doing, so let me bring myself back there.
Yeah. So that's how, I mean, it's just, it was just unbelievable. And then my mom and I, because, she didn't know how to handle me, didn't know how to handle that situation. So she kind of covered herself up. She found her strength through religion.
Okay.
So from Catholicism, we went to this Bible-based church, but it wasn't grace. It was purely the law.
Gotcha.
And we were like my Jewish family would say, oh, Mr. Armstrong is like this mixed up Jew. Because, we believed in Christ, but we kept the Sabbath, we kept all the other Feast of Tabernacles, Feast of Trumpets, and of course the way they did it is everything symbolized Jesus, but it was the law. And growing up as a kid, since I didn't have a father figure, and don't get me wrong, because I really love my dad now, and I love how he has restored my relationship, with my father here in America. But back then, my backbone and structure was the religious law. There was a part of me that hated it and loved it at the same time. Sabbath, the eating of the kosher food, and all that, and that was like, oh my goodness, and the thing that fascinated me back then, which is good now, we were taught about the Holy of Holies, and what's outside of the tabernacle, and all that, which I think, served me well right now, but now I look at things through a spiritual standpoint, and not through, if you don't do this, you're going to be thrown in a volcanic sulfur hellfire. That's no longer my motivation. So, but before it was like that, and then something happened. The leader of that church died, and then the following leader said, we're not really following the New Testament. We're following all these laws, and we have to focus more on Christ. And a lot of the members, some of them wanted to kill him actually, and some of them threatened him with guns. Can you just believe that? I mean,
yes,
yes,
I can.
It's almost like back in yeah.
There's a chance people don't like change. If it puts what people have grown accustomed to on that chopping block, they get nervous. But all he was simply doing was the truth. And the truth is never meant to make you feel comfortable. It's meant to be the truth. And so I think that's a common thing when something threatens change. People do get very uncomfortable. But this was obviously purpose. That's all these are.
Yeah.
Please
continue. And and the funny thing is that I found my structure through the law, eating kosher food, and keeping all the high holy days, the Sabbath, and not working after sundown, but I was also bullied in that church. I was ostracized because I looked very. There was a time in that church that they would even measure the skirt length of the women's skirt. And so they were that legalistic.
Yeah. Well, you're learning about God, and I think this is the thing as we move forward, is that a lot of people deal with this today. They know of God, but there's a difference between knowing of Him and having a relationship with Him, and there's a disconnect. That as He takes us through this process, we can look back and actually see we were in that legalist form because it provides a structure, but something's missing. Yeah. I'm still in a place, but I'm not accepted. I'm here, and there's a source of not accepted. That acceptance is like something's wrong here.
Yeah. So Lance, bear in mind that this was the 80s, and I was so much into 80s music and fashion. I used to go. I still wore a suit, but used to attend church with my super giant shoulder pads back in the day, looking like I was a member of Duran Duran and David Bowie.
That would be,
and that didn't fly really well.
No.
They'd see me. I got this from Sister Act when the Mother Superior was putting Whoopi Goldberg. Her character in the movie, a conspicuous character designed to stand out. That's what I was. Still am.
You're in this world now.
Exactly.
It's often throughout our lives we're trying to blend in. The world wants you to conform.
Yeah.
And there's something in us that's like, I can't.
Yeah.
And you don't know why. It's painful as a child because you're like, why am I so different? And then you realize because God made you that way.
Yeah.
That's exactly why you're meant. You're in this world. You're not of it. So you're always going to stand out, no matter how hard you try to blend in. It becomes more apparent now because you can see the time. You're just like, it's frustrating. It's like, no one likes me. I'm different. This isn't going to work. And then it's like the harder you try to fit in, the more you stand out.
Yeah. That there came a point in my life that I didn't want to fit anymore.
No.
I didn't want to fit in anymore because I just became sick and tired of it. And now the people that I surround myself with are the people that have accepted me unconditionally. And they know me inside out. And I don't have to pretend, like I'm Mother Teresa.
You're supposed to be who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You're not supposed to fit someone's perception of you.
Yeah.
And that's a freeing point. When Jesus came to set us free, it was meaning that, to set you free. If you're in your own bondage of trying to pretend to please man and not God, that's something that people put themselves in because they're afraid to be themselves. And that's something that he breaks. I made you a way to be this way. There's a reason. And oftentimes because we don't understand it, we fight against it. But as time goes on, it comes out. It comes out. So what happened once they start preaching the New Testament at church?
It didn't really fly well with me, and then I remember that time like it was yesterday. Okay, we moved from Manila to sold a house, my grandfather's house. He was, he passed away by then. Sold that house and bought a tiny but beautiful house outside of the capital. Beautiful, fresh air, surrounded by nature, but American style looking houses, like really, with a clubhouse, pool, blah, blah, blah. So we still went to the Worldwide Church of God, in that area. But things started to change. And the people that wanted to keep the old ways, the colors came out and they were very aggressive and it became really ugly. Really, really ugly. And then the others wanted to embrace the New Testament and grace and worship music and worship and adoration. I didn't have any clue.
Yeah.
I was stuck in the middle. As a matter of fact, Lance, I used to ostracize and criticize people who used to worship God and raise their hands. And I would say, oh, look at them, they're crazy, lunatics. They deserve to be confined in Arkham Asylum. And
Asylum?
Yeah. But the joke was on me. And I'm saying this, and in a very loving way. Because when he came into my life, it was super phenomenal.
It changes everything.
Yeah. And the curious thing is that when Jesus came into my life, I said, I don't want to be a Christian anymore. I'm just gonna be follow my flesh and live life of homosexuality. And that's it. And it's funny because that time my cousin, from Florida came to the Philippines and took me to a beach resort, and I fell flat on my face big time, like morally speaking, I had like a moment, a sexual moment, where some random dude over here who was offered himself for a fee. So I look at it and it's so funny now because after that done was over, like my cousin, quick, ride on a tricycle and leave. Like, why? Because I shortchanged him. Okay, now step on the gas and go. It's like, it's crazy. Let's go right now.
It's funny because you have an experience.
Yeah.
And it changes your outlook.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus wakes you up.
Yeah.
And it's almost like it's the most amazing thing, and at the same point, then you start to rebel.
Yeah.
You go, no, because something changes. I know when you woke me up, you realize what you thought you know nothing. And that's frightening to a point because we've grown comfortable in the land
I
of
thought I
make-believe.
knew the Bible. I thought that I knew the Bible, by heart. But then when this lady started to teach the evangelism explosion in our church, that whole thing shifted, and I was taught about, grace, that the law cannot save me, that, one sin of mine could, disrupt everything, and that's enough to disqualify me, and it's only the grace of God. And I learned about, this acronym that the evangelism explosion invented, the acronym of GRACE, God's riches at Christ's expense. I didn't realize that I was gonna fall apart like this. And also that he became my sins. He became me, and gave me a new life. I mean, that was powerful right there. I borrowing the words of Adele, it's a brand new me.
You start to see in truth what that sacrifice is. I think a lot of people, when they're taught, you could be taught about something all day long, and then when you see it, when God gives that increase, then everything changes because we have a preconceived notion. I think a lot of people do, they learn of God. Then you get to understand, and now the relationship starts. You could be alive 50 years, and then God opens your eyes this day, and you can say, it's all a lie. What's going on here? Then you start to take it seriously. And it's a process. It doesn't happen at once.
No.
That was the beginning. That was the end. That was the beginning.
That was the beginning.
And as time starts to go on, because something in you changes, this is what people don't understand. It's like, well, how am I going to do this? I can't do this. And then you're being honest. You're right. You can't do it. Jesus is the only reason that we're at this point and continue to move forward. I think oftentimes when he wakes you up and you realize, you're like, wow, at any time, if I died in my sin, I really would go to hell. It's not a joke. It's not some Hollywood make-believe movie. It's for real. And you now know it. No one's going to take that away from you because you know it. It's very hard to conceptualize a spiritual experience to explain to people because most people think that's all smoke and mirrors. That's actually reality. And so when you have experienced Christ opening your eyes, things start to shift. So how is this shift moving forward through life now? Because it's a constant walk. As long as we're here, your testimony is ongoing. It didn't stop. People always think, how is it continued?
Yeah, it's not like, you say, Jesus came into my life and they lived happily ever after. The end. It did not happen to me that way. And most especially, well, in the beginning of my Christian walk, I kept on idolizing the preachers that I would see on Christian TV. And then my mom left the Worldwide Church of God, and then what happened was we went to the Vineyard Church, and then I just loved this pastor. Well, and his wife, they were like they're like my spiritual, mentor.